Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gorman Ruggiero, and I'm the author of a book called 30 Plays for Child Actors. This book is a culmination of over 35 to 40 years of work with children, training them in the fundamentals of basic communication skills, using theater techniques, dance, martial art techniques, yoga, and other techniques in the arts to teach children the most important thing they could learn in their lives, communication skills. So these 30 plays are a selection of the many more plays that I have written and produced over the years. And these plays are published as a form of dramatic literature. I didn't publish these as a production script, which includes all the sets and costumes requirements, the prop requirements, the stage directions. There's some stage directions in here, but basically I wrote this as a form of dramatic literature for parents and children to be able to read with each other as an alternative to other media activities such as social media, television, cell phones, computer games, anything that has a screen. Over the years, I've realized that many children are losing ground in the areas of communication and self-control and expression. One of the main reasons for that, and everyone already knows this, we don't have to argue about it, is their time in the cyber world, their time in front of a screen where they're interacting with other people with something in between them. This phenomenon is what I first noticed in 1982 when I was working with my first couple of companies of young child actors. I was walking through a park and I saw a group of children huddled around another child who had some kind of device, and I didn't know what it was. I walked up and it was some kind of Game Boy, 1982, whatever that was then, and they were all mesmerized. They were glued to that. And it was very, very unusual for me to see that, because normally I see kids running around, yelling, screaming, running around in the park, never mesmerized in one little huddle. So it occurred to me at that time, I had a very strange feeling that this was going to be the future if we didn't do something about it. So I wrote a play called Stefan, the Pip, and the Stolen Star, which is a story about a child's quest to save imagination for humanity. And that has turned in from a 20-minute play into a hour and 45-minute full musical called The Stolen Star. It's in this book. It's been produced over 25 times and has evolved over the years. I've even had casts of 100 children in this production. So first, in order to give you a better idea of what I do, I want to show you a video that was produced for one of my plays in China. And it's self-explanatory, but I'd be willing to take all your questions, comments, criticism, and observations afterwards. And then I'll explain more about my work and why I think it's vital that we start getting children back into personal, interpersonal communications. We can do that with theater, with interesting plays, with values-based materials. So I'm going to present this video to you, and I hope you enjoy it.
I can do anything. I can do anything today. I can do anything. I can do anything today. I can go anywhere. I can go anywhere today. I can go anywhere. I can go anywhere today. I can be anyone. I can be anyone today. I can be anyone. I can be anyone today. It's great to be with you. It's great to be with you today. It's great to be with you.
My name is Gorman Ruggiero. I'm a theater director, actor, producer, and playwright. I have worked with children for over 35 years developing theater productions for children, with children as the actors. When I came to the school, the English Experimental School, we talked about doing a version of Snow White. And through our discussions, I was really impressed with the teachers and the administration. They were talking about doing something with Chinese culture. So I asked them, well, maybe I can adapt the play with Chinese cultural elements, which we did. 50 children, which is unusual. There's not very many plays out there with 50 characters, but we have Snow White, we have the 8 pandas, we have bumblebees and plum blossoms and all kinds of other characters. And each child has speaking parts, movement, dance, and they sing. The purpose of this camp is to introduce children into the wondrous world of theater, to teach them acting, to teach them to use their imagination, but most importantly, to communicate, teach them how to communicate using physical, emotional, and intellectual content. I've been preparing for this camp for about 3 weeks. When I found out we had 50 students, I knew I had to write a play because there's very few plays out there with 50 characters, and you'll never find any for children with speaking parts. So I wrote this adaptation of Snow White with the intent of making sure every child had speaking roles. I wrote the play. I hired some fantastic artists. Rena is our dance director, choreographer. Hem is our musical director. He's also a virtuoso pianist. And we put our heads together and came up with a variety of different ideas to work with the songs and the dances. And I let them design their own work because they're the experts. So we kind of put our heads together and we came up with some really nice, interesting pieces that the children could perform. Each and every single child has improved in levels of confidence, articulation of English, and especially understanding emotional content and how to express it. Yes, everyone.
Hello, my name is Rena. I'm a dance director and a choreographer for the camp. I can see a lot of changes. They really, first day they were very shy, and day by day they really start to show them personality, confidence with us. It's really cute that kids can change in so fast time.
I'm William Brico from Manila, Philippines. I'm happy to join this company to make this winter camp. So I can teach them the nursery rhyme as well, alphabets, colors like shapes, and etc. for the kids. Ever since the camp started, I saw a lot of them there doing well.
First of all, children, listen to me. Come to me. That's what I would like to say. I would also like to say Anjing and Ting Ma. But most importantly, I would like to say you did all your work. You made an agreement with me that you would work hard and have a great show, and you kept your agreement. And I want to thank you for keeping that agreement. Now, today, during this performance, just go and have fun. You did all the work. Remember your positions and go have fun.
Be themselves, relax, don't be shy, and don't think that they can do it, because I don't believe that I can do it. It's just I don't want to do it. So they must be relaxed, and everything will be okay.
Before you go out, just keep practicing, whatever they want.
So I hope you enjoyed that. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what was going on there. So if you notice the children, thank you, Rose Marison. Appreciate that. She says, that looks so fun. I've never had more fun in my life than working with child actors in rehearsals and performances. So what we're doing is changing their brains. So the latest brain science, and I have a degree in I'm a master's in the science of psychology with a focus on brain function and autism. And I worked with many children on the autism spectrum, as well as other children with special needs over the years. And I'm currently working with children, nonverbal children with autism. What we know about the brain, the latest research shows that the brain is more like a rainforest, that if something happens in the weather or the wind, or if a tree falls down, it immediately changes the nature of that environment. Same thing happens with our brain. From the time you began watching that video to the time you finished it, your brain changed, as well as my brain changed. And our brains are changing right now as we interact on this video and this broadcast. So with that in mind, we have to be very, very concerned about what are we doing with our children's brain development in the form of media, social media. Again, I'm going back to screen time, videos, TV, movies, Game Boys, little handheld devices, cell phones, computer games. Even when they're in school on the computer doing homework or work in school, that's computer time. Now, that may be productive computer time. And of course, there's a difference between productive computer time and destructive screen time. So when I work with children, especially autistic children, I always ask parents, how many hours a week does your child spend in front of a screen? This is very key. The reason why this book is important is because this is one of the antidotes, one of the many antidotes to getting children off the screen. Take a play, print it out, hand out copies to your family members, dad, mom, brothers, sisters, whoever, and sit around and read the characters. If they can't read, let them act it out. If they're too young to read, you can let them act it out. You can teach them how to act it out. On game night, order a pizza on game night instead of watching a movie, interact with each other. So my point being, if we understand how many hours a week we're putting those children in front of these screens, and I call it screen time because that encompasses all the screens, everything that you can imagine that has a video screen or digital screen or digital interaction, sometimes parents are shocked. So if you sat down right now and started calculating how many hours a day does your child or someone you know's child is on in front of a screen, add that up. I'll just give you an example. One parent said, well, not that much. And I said, well, let's go by the day. So how many hours a day are they on their cell phone? Oh, maybe a couple hours a day. Okay. That's 14 hours a week. How many hours a day are they in front of a computer game or a movie on TV? Well, I think maybe a couple hours a night. Okay. That's another 14 hours. That's 28 hours a week. And how about in school? Well, they're on the computer every day in school. Okay. So 2 or 3 hours a day. Let's give the benefit of the doubt. Say they're on the computer 2 hours a day in school. That's another 14 hours a week, or actually less than 14. That's another 10 hours. So already you're up to a full-time job. So I often joke with the parents and say, if your kid got a full-time job, he could probably pay for his college education by the time he got there. So my point being, in order to understand why I've spent all these years working with children, it's from that moment that I saw that group of kids in that park huddled around a digital screen, mesmerized by it. And communication skills are the most important thing you can teach your children. And I know that's a fact because when I've done probably hundreds of presentations, and I always put something on the board. I'm going to answer this question from Robert. First, Robert says, what inspired you to working with children through plays and the stage? Well, I was a trained conservatory actor already, and I had an acting company in New York City, and I was producing shows in New York, and I decided one summer to take my acting company to Saratoga Springs, New York, and we were producing shows, and September rolled around, and I thought, wow, it's a nice town. It's a great place. I can do a lot of work here. So I decided I'd look for jobs. And one of my ideas was to maybe go to an elementary school and work with children in the theater to make some money. My goal was to make a living, not to work with children. It was to make a living by working with children. So that started the whole process. Brenda Shaw, and it became very inspiring after I started working with children. I realized I fell right in love with it. So Brenda B. Shaw says, was it challenging to create a play and introduce it to children with autism? Actually, no. As you know, children with autism there's a range of autism. Now, most of the children I work with in the theater are a little higher functioning. They don't have to be verbal, but they should be able to understand. Most children who are nonverbal understand what you're saying, even though they can't speak. But it's not that difficult. They are no different than other children. They want to act out. They want to perform. They want to be in a play. They want to be characters. So it's very easy to integrate children on the autism spectrum with children who are typically developing. And what I did over the years was I used to combine children who are typically developing with children who are on the spectrum and other special needs, of course, and we would produce shows together. And that gave all the families of children with autism and the families of typically developing children, that gave them a way to communicate with each other and learn about each other and become fast friends over the years. Margaret Sherrill, what are the struggles of training child actors? Well, that's a hard question to answer because I love what I do. And early on, it was a little difficult because I didn't know what I was doing. And then I decided I better get some more knowledge. So I developed an interest in psychology. And in order to support my theater training as a conservatory trained actor, I started going to psychology books and reading about child development. That was the biggest struggle. Once I started learning about child development and got myself a master's degree, I was able to understand better. Once I overcame that, I still do a lot of research in brain science. I keep up with all the latest developments in autism and different techniques people are developing. So that's the biggest struggle, making sure you keep up to date on what exactly is going on. Flora Wagner asks me, what are some productions represented in your plays? Okay, so my first play was an adaptation of Puss in Boots. And now it was a 20-minute play for child actors. It was my first theater production with child actors, my first play that I wrote that was a formal production. And that has turned into an hour-and-a-half full-length production called The Fighting Cat Blade. That play is over 40 years old. It developed over the years because every time I produced the show, I would rewrite it and upgrade it and make it more interesting, where now it has probably 30 or 40 characters. And what I do is I put younger children in the production with older children. I rehearse them separately, and then the last week we combine the whole show, all the shows together, different parts of the show. My other plays are mythology, folk tales, religious stories, history, culturally, to introduce children to different cultures of the world, interesting parts of their cultures. And the children love learning about that. That's very exciting for them. Margaret Sherrill. Is it true that autism is often sometimes stigmatized and misunderstood? I think early on, yes. I think right now there may be a small portion of people who might cause stigmatization, and there are many people misunderstand it, yes, but I think people are now aware that children on the autism spectrum are all around us. I remember when I first started working with children with autism at the elementary school where I started working in 1981, I was working with children on the autism spectrum. They weren't diagnosed. We didn't realize they were autistic until in the 90s when I was working in psychology and they were bringing me children. I'm thinking, my goodness, these are the same issues the children I worked with at the Lake Avenue Theater of Children in Saratoga Springs, the same issues they had. And I'm thinking, so these kids I was working with in 1981 and 82 and 85 were the same children on the spectrum, undiagnosed. They weren't really diagnosing them as much until the early 90s, mid 90s, and then it became very prevalent. So I think it's less stigmatized. If people understand, I think the schools are accepting that they need special programs for these children. And I'm working in a couple of elementary schools right now with children on the spectrum. Stephanie T. Ballantyne, what are some important life lessons we can learn from your book? Great question. Every single play in this book, and I'm happy with the cover. Everyone loves my cover. Every play has a lesson. So it starts out with introduction to the play, and then it says storyline, moral of the story, and the running time. So there's always a lesson to be learned that I focus on with the children. And some of the lessons are basically, how do we treat each other? How do we deal with our differences and what makes us the same? How do we deal with older children and younger children? And I mix age groups in my plays all the time because I think that's really a healthy thing to do. And the most important thing that I want to teach children with these plays is communication skills, healthy communication skills. For instance, being able to understand, recognize, and utilize physical expression. Understand, recognize, and utilize emotional expression, and understand, utilize, and intellectual expression. Maddie W. Woolley, I admire how this book tackles how you develop and train children for their own great success. Yes, the most important thing, and I was starting with this before, is when I go into a presentation, I write 5 things on the board or in my PowerPoint presentation, and I write history, science, math, communication skills, and English. And I ask the audience right at the beginning, what do you think is the most important area of study that your children will need to become successful professionally and personally? And almost 99% of the time over the years, they say communication skills. Because with better communication skills, all the other 4 areas of study will be improved. Thank you. Warren Canelo says a really great book. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So Arlena K. Barnes is saying, communication is vital, especially since we are social beings. Exactly. Yes. And the most important thing I can convey to my audience, and my new book will go into the details of my work. It's called The Complete Child, but that won't be out for another year. But that will detail how I work with children with these plays. But my most important thing I can convey to parents and people who read my book is they need to be able to change their brain in a healthy way. Lucilla J. Nowacki, sorry if I mispronounced. What is the best tip for aspiring actors for them to properly convey the emotional and character in a play? Okay. The best tip I can give you is to study the fundamentals of physical, emotional, and intellectual communication and separate them out. So what I do with children is I break down communication into 3 areas, and I break those 3 areas, which is, physical, emotional, and intellectual communication processes. I break those down to the most fundamental building blocks. For instance, we work for the first 6 to 8 weeks without using any words. It's all nonverbal work. It's emotional, physical work. I work with children physically. I would recommend actors get dance training, martial arts training, circus arts, whatever they can do. Any kind of sport always helps. Emotionally, I think children should learn how to interact with people in a healthy way by observing other people, and let parents point out the different emotions. I have a whole bunch of games that I play with children that help with emotional content recognition and expression. Stephanie T. Ballantyne says, what is the most inspiring thing a child with autism told you? There's so many things. My goodness, there's so many things they tell me. I think one of the most inspiring things I've ever realized or been told by a child with autism is, I want to be part of the group. And they don't tell you normally or necessarily in words, but they show you. Children are very expressive, and what they show you is really sometimes more profound than what they tell you. So most children on the autism spectrum, all children basically on the autism spectrum, they want to be part of the group. They don't want to be off in the corner causing trouble or being looked on as a troubled child. They want to be part of it all. And through these techniques and methodology that I've developed, they can do that. Any other questions or comments or observations? I'm always open to that. So I will be on next week at 7 p.m., same time, same spot, for the 5 nights next week. And you can go online and get my book at Amazon.com. You might find some information about me and my work online, although I do keep a very low profile. My website, Plays for Child Actors, will be coming out within a month, 2 weeks or to a month. That'll be live. And you can also go there and get more information about me. So I thank you all for listening. Warren Canelo has one more comment. Once again, I think parents with kids and teachers in elementary should get your book as a source of guidance. Thank you very much, Warren. I agree with that 100%. Now, people who purchase this book, if a school purchases a book and they want me to give a presentation, they just have to get in touch with me. I travel a lot. I love going to schools. I go to all the elementary school. All my students who have shows, I go to their school and watch their show. You always learn something. I never saw a bad show with child. See you, Warren. Thank you, Warren Canelo. You guys have a great night, and I appreciate your interaction.